Hello everyone, welcome to our channel where we explore the exciting world of DIY projects. Today we will delve into the intriguing process of soldering. We'll unmask the basics, from defining what soldering is to discussing its core components. We'll also touch on the significance of soldering in electrifying your DIY projects. And of course we'll cover some key techniques and safety considerations. It's more than just melting metal. It's about creating secure, long-lasting electrical connections. So buckle up as we heat things up and explore the art of soldering. So what exactly is soldering and why is it so crucial in electronic projects? Well, in a nutshell, soldering is a process that binds two or more metal items by melting a filler metal, also known as solder, into the joint. The primary purpose of soldering is to create a strong, electrically conductive connection between components. Now let's talk about the basic components involved in soldering. First, we have the soldering iron, which is a hand tool used to heat up the solder. The tip of the soldering iron is what actually melts the solder, allowing it to flow into the joint between the components. Next, we have the solder itself, which is a metal alloy that melts at a relatively low temperature. When this molten metal cools, it forms a strong electrically conductive bond between the components. Lastly, we have flux, a chemical cleaning agent that assists in creating a better soldering joint. It removes oxidation from the metals to be soldered, ensuring a clean, strong bond when the solder cools and solidifies. And this brings us to the role of heat transfer. The heat from the soldering iron melts the solder, allowing it to flow into the joint and bind the components together. It's a simple concept, but understanding it is key to mastering the art of soldering. Now that we understand the components and the principle of heat transfer, let's move on to the types of soldering equipment. Having the right tools is half the job done. Let's discuss the various equipment and techniques used in soldering. First up, we have the soldering iron. This tool is the heart of the operation, providing the necessary heat to melt the solder. There are various types of soldering irons, from the simple plug-and-play pencil type to the more advanced temperature-controlled ones. Pencil-type irons are great for beginners and small projects, while temperature-controlled irons offer greater precision and are ideal for more complex tasks. Next, we have the solder, the metallic glue that holds everything together. There are two main types, lead-based and lead-free. Lead-based solder is easier to work with due to its lower melting point, but it's toxic and not recommended for projects involving food or drink. On the other hand, lead-free solder is safer but requires a bit more skill due to its higher melting point. Then there's flux, the unsung hero of soldering. Flux cleans the metal surfaces and improves solder flow, ensuring a good solid joint. It's often incorporated into the core of the solder wire, but you can also apply it separately. Now let's talk about techniques. Tinning is a process where you apply a thin layer of solder to the iron's tip before soldering. It helps improve heat transfer and prolongs the life of the tip. Through-hole soldering is a technique used for components with wire leads. You insert the leads through the holes in the circuit board, apply the solder, and voila! You've got a strong electrical connection. Surface mount soldering, on the other hand, involves components that sit on top of the circuit board. This technique is a bit more challenging due to the smaller size of the components, but with a steady hand and patience it's entirely doable. Remember, mastering these techniques requires practice. Now let's talk about safety. Safety first. Any task can be hazardous without proper precautions. When dealing with high temperatures, consider proper ventilation. Working in a well-ventilated area is always helpful. Equally important is the use of safety glasses. These protect your eyes from any possible splatter, making sure your endeavors remain a joy and not a trip to the emergency room. Now that we've got safety covered, let's dive into some common projects. Now comes the fun part, creating your own electronic projects through soldering. Soldering is not just a process, it's a gateway to countless exciting projects. From basic electronic components to more complex DIY endeavors, the possibilities are endless. Resistors, capacitors, LEDs, transistors, these are just a few of the many components you'll encounter on your soldering journey. Each provides a unique function in the world of electronics, and mastering the art of soldering them opens up a universe of creativity. Think of soldering wires for a simple circuit or assembling a kit. These projects not only help you practice your soldering skills, but also bring immense satisfaction when you see them working. Remember, it's not about the complexity of the project, but the learning and enjoyment you derive from it. However, as with any skill, mistakes are part of the learning curve. One common beginner's mistake is applying too much solder. This can lead to short circuits and poor connection quality. Remember, less is often more when it comes to solder. Another common error is not heating the component and the pad before applying solder. This can cause what is known as a cold joint. Cold joints are soldered joints with a dull, grainy, or crystalline appearance. They are often weak and have poor electrical conductivity. They occur when the solder doesn't melt completely or if the component moves during soldering. To prevent cold joints, ensure both the component and the pad are heated properly before applying your solder. And remember to keep your component steady. If you do encounter a cold joint, don't panic. They can usually be fixed by simply reflowing the joint. That is, applying heat until the solder melts and flows again. Once you've mastered these common challenges, you'll be well on your way to perfecting your soldering technique. And there you have it. With these tips and tricks, you're well on your way to becoming a soldering pro. Until next time, happy soldering. That's all for today's video. We hope you found it informative and helpful. We've explored the world of soldering, from its basics to the equipment used, techniques, safety considerations, common projects, and troubleshooting. Now it's your turn to dive in, experiment, and perhaps even create your own electronic masterpiece. Feel free to share your soldering experiences and any questions you might have in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to our channel for more DIY adventures. See you in the next video.